Welcome to SSI's Security Speaking podcast, brought to you by Security Sales and Integration. Each episode features thought leaders from throughout the professional security channel discussing technology, winning business practices, hot industry trends, and emerging opportunities. We appreciate your interest and encourage you to subscribe to Security Sales and Integration and its newsletters. Regularly visit securitysales.com for the latest news and follow SSI on social media. Thank you.
I wanted to start just by kind of going around and having everybody real briefly introduce themselves and just, give like a sentence or two of your current role and your industry experience. So I'm looking at the way things lay out for me clockwise, and so I'll just start first with Stephanie.
Awesome. Thank you. So I'm Stephanie. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications here at Paladin. I've been with Paladin I'm in my 6th year. And prior to this, I was working in our guarding division. And then as Paladin Technologies grew to the brand it is today, I shifted focus to our tech side. In my role, I have an amazing team that oversees our pursuits nationally. So we work in close collaboration with business development and the executive team on large opportunities. As well, we have oversight over all of our digital assets, and we work tightly with HR on both recruitment and internal communications, as well as employee engagement. So that's me.
Excellent. Thank you, Stephanie. Continuing on, we have Joe.
Hey, how you doing today? So I've been I was with the first acquisition. My name is Joe Morris, Vice President with Paladin. Was with the first acquisition that Paladin merger, and I was about 3 years ago. So it gives me a total of about 12 years with Paladin technically. My role is growth in the U.S. right now, so a lot in business development, as well as helping build teams in different regions to be able to support our customer base.
Very good. Thank you, Joe. David?
Yeah, David, I'm VP of Technology. I joined into the security industry in 2008 and came into Paladin with a merger. So mostly I'm looking after design, kind of for the business, wherever that takes us. For the most complex problems, we'll bring our design team to bear. I also look after our internal infrastructure, IT infrastructure, and securing that end of the business as well.
Very good. Thank you. Ian?
Thanks a lot. EVP Eastern Canada. Ian Morton joined 6 years ago. So at the time, Paladin just organically with me and then building the team grew. Ontario, Quebec, Atlantic Canada. So we've made some merger decisions since then, and we've been expanding throughout that region quite significantly.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So I'd like to hear sort of the elevator pitch, if you will, of where the company has come from to get where it is today and where the integration piece fits into the big picture of the operation. So who would like to jump in on that?
Well, I'll start perhaps just with my view of where the company has come from. We've evolved basically as an organization, Paladin Security Systems at the initiation, a complementary company to a guarding business, Paladin Security. Paladin Security Systems were really for that DNA of the Paladin group of companies, which is huge customer service focus. Its DNA is about being passionate about what we do, living up to our commitments, great teamwork. And then the evolution of Paladin Security Systems into Paladin Technologies was really accelerated through thoughtful mergers of companies like the one David came from and like Joe came from, where we bring in with that investment regional expansion, tremendous expertise, talented people, and really focus more and more at the leading edge of the integration business and away from being a conventional alarm and service and basic needs type of company. That's basically the summary of how I see the business has evolved.
Mm-hmm. Anyone want to add to that? So about how many employees are there today and how many are part of the integration side of the business?
Well, I'll just clarify the businesses are really sister. There's a couple of common shareholders at the head of the business, but Paladin Technologies is its own business. So essentially everyone in that business is part of the integrated business. And we just work collegially across the lines to solve customer problems, opportunities on wherever they may exist with any of any of the group of companies. So as far as the numbers go, Stephanie, I think you were going to tackle anything related to HR.
Yeah. So our employee base is nearly 1,000 people now across North America. We count within that our electrical group, which operates in the Pacific, which is Action Electric. So we have quite an extensive group in terms of that reach. And then with Paladin Security Guarding Group on the other side, that adds thousands and thousands of more people. But integration solely, we're near 1,000 people.
And roughly the size of the client base?
$10,000. We do have a base of alarm customers and others with service needs, and then we have our integrated client base, which is obviously a smaller number, but a substantially bigger volume of revenue.
And what would you say are some of the core verticals that you specialize in?
I can take that, or do you want?
No, you got it.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah. Sure. So yeah, we have a hard time defining our verticals, given that we really focus on solving and we're best situated when we're solving complex problems. So that brings us into all sorts of regulated environments, be energy generation, transmission, to healthcare, to government, institutional, to banking, enterprise business. So, and it really changes based on the region and the geography that we're working in. But it's kind of the vertical mix that as we see it.
Is there a significant difference north of the border to the U.S. in terms of compliance issues for your customers and things like that? What's the difference between serving U.S. versus Canadian customers?
You've done both.
Oh, you know the best.
Yeah, I could jump in a little bit on that one. Yeah, there's certainly some differences, right? If you look at healthcare, there's certain regulations that they follow in Canada, and out here you have OSHPA. When you look at dealing in the federal space, with FIPS and that sort of stuff. So there's different regulations that regulatory bodies that we have to comply to. But at the end of the day, I think the meat and potatoes of it is pretty similar. You're gonna be putting good equipment into good infrastructure, and installing it properly, whether it's a UL listing or a ULC listing. Again, they follow a lot of the same pretexts. So, I think there's some little different rules. A lot of it's very similar. I mean, and a great example would be gaming, and that changes not only province to province but state to state. So. It's something that we're very good at adapting to. We can open up the rule book to see what we need to do to be in compliance. And we make those minor adjustments as necessary. And in some cases, for some clients that I can't, I shouldn't mention, but we actually help write their regulations for what their security and cabling standards are, because we've worked with them for so long that their standards become embedded based on what we've been working on with them for the last 10 years, with Ian's group and Dave's group of what we've established with them. So it changes a little bit, but I think at the end of the day, it's pretty much the same stuff.
Yeah, totally. It's the Sarbanes-Oxley the Act and the NERC SIP, which is power distribution generation regulations. Those are North American wide, so a lot of that infrastructure stuff ends up being pretty common as far as regulations go, and then it just comes down to the get down to the regional meat and potatoes of it, of fitting the proper security technology into the infrastructure that's at hand.
And how many total locations do you have roughly? Did you mention that?
We're at 23 locations across North America.
And is Paladin Technologies offering hosted video and or managed access control and those, security as a service type offerings?
Yes, yeah, we have a mix of our own infrastructure and offerings, and then as well we resell like the big manufacturers offerings. We kind of see that SaaS, the SaaS model is kind of key to solving a lot of problems for the customer, and enabling low cost, reliable services. But there's this complexity and mix of infrastructure that we also kind of got to keep our eyes on, and a lot of customers want all of their infrastructure on-prem, or they want to see a hybrid cloud environment, so the ability to move that storage and workload from on-prem to in the cloud. And the other thing is, betting on one cloud solution is no longer an option either, in that there's the smart CIOs out there are watching it and seeing like there's an Achilles heel of each of these services, whether it's Azure or AWS or another third-party cloud provider, and they want to see their workloads be able to migrate from one cloud provider to another. So we got to be enabling that solution to move through that ecosystem, and that's really kind of focus of ours to keep the options open for the customer in case something does happen.
Do you find that the customers have been more open to cloud-based solutions? Was that accelerated by the pandemic, do you think?
I would say so. You would say that, like, depending on what point of contact we have in the customer's environment, the IT people, we're already had adopted a lot of the cloud solutions, and we're happy with it. The facilities and maintenance or security teams themselves maybe had a little less comfort, which they might have been pushed over the edge with COVID. And the restrictions. I think the bigger thing was the flexibility of access, that kind of, you no longer can have an air gap network or a very static network perimeter, because all of a sudden your people are getting pushed out to working from home, and they're responsible for those facilities. So that the cloud element was really enabled, or the argument for cloud was pushed forward because of okay, we can't have this static network anymore. It has to be out there. So why don't we put the servers and storage in the cloud as well?
What is the philosophy for Paladin Technologies in terms of mix of recurring revenues versus project-based revenues? What is your target? Where are you at now?
We given the type of customers we have, it's mostly project based, and in the majority of our revenue comes from project based. It doesn't mean that there isn't a significant amount of RMR services along the way, but usually it's the project that drives that. So we install the infrastructure, and then we do a service agreement, whether that's preventative maintenance or a managed service agreement, where we're maintaining that infrastructure and effectively operating the infrastructure for the client. There's the alarm monitoring offering that we have, and then probably the other vector of revenue is reselling the cloud services or SaaS services through to the client. So it's definitely a mix. It's optimal to get as much of that as we can from a business perspective. But again, the majority of our stuff is project based.
I will add to the project base that we've had many customers well over 10 years. So while it is project based, we're getting some recurring revenue from them. But and that's through hard work and keeping them happy, giving them the best customer experience that we can.
Yeah.
But that's a little different than what Dave's talking about.
Yeah, no, totally. That's a good point too, Joe. Like the reoccurring revenue that we get out of a large customer, because they have so many assets and infrastructure everywhere, is really a good business to be in, because it ends up being a program where they spend X amount of dollars year over year, and we can kind of just reliably work with them to go and refresh infrastructure or build new infrastructure.
So I'm gathering that referrals and reputation is probably your leading source of new business, as it should be for what you guys do. However, there's obviously marketing, and what are some areas that you focus on to generate interest in the business and generate prospects and that kind of thing on the marketing side? What vehicles and methodology do you tend to lean on for that?
Mm-hmm. Well, we work very closely with our business development teams, and really we are a backing support group to our BD folks who are kind of out there telling us what the trends are. By no means am I ever stating that I'm the subject matter expert. I look for guidance from Dave's group, Ian's groups, Joe's groups to tell us what the trends are, and then we do the back end research, and then of course we're seeking out targeting GC electricals, partnerships, opportunities in the back end, any research we can find for new opportunities, so that when we are in the position to respond to a large RFP, we're already well aware and educated of that project, who's on the project, et cetera. So we really look at it from a holistic perspective. In terms of digital, we do drive a small percentage of our leads through our website, and we put effort towards there. But I really look at our brand online to help with recruitment and focus on our people. We are a B2B business, and most of our opportunities come through those referrals and strong client relationships. But where we have an active voice on social media and through our website is really to share about our culture, and then when we can, share about the work that we're doing and just keep pushing that message of teamwork and our core values.
And how would you describe the culture of Paladin Technologies, and how is that reinforced and maintained?
Yeah, I mean, I can start. I'm sure we can all have a nice feel about our culture, because I truly feel it's something special. We really are like a family. We're very dysfunctional at times, like a family, but we are a family. And I think the core part of that is that we're all working towards a common goal. And it starts, again, from our leadership team. They are incredibly accessible, always a phone call away. They jump on any, from pursuits to projects to site requirements. They will jump in and have open communication. And it's really always been an open door policy here. So I think that also just goes through the organization in terms of culture, and we are always there to support one another. It's just that really, as we mentioned earlier, there's not an internal competition. It's about internal support. We lean on each other for different hurdles that we face every day, but it's always all hands on deck when needed. And I think that just shows our employee base that we're in it together. And I think that's what makes us so special, really. Anybody else want to add to that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, when I first started in the industry, I worked at two different integrators, one for 1 year, one for another year. And then since joining the Paladin group, it's coming on 13 years. When you enjoy going into work and culture and the people around you, it really makes the days, the months, the years fly by. And I think that's important, is being able to get up in the morning and want to go into work. And I think that stems from our culture.
I joined 6 years ago voluntarily, like Stephanie, unlike a couple of people on this call who came in through mergers. And I did that for a reason. I had, as with all of us, we've worked in the industry in other markets, and we have these experiences. And I knew that Paladin was different. I knew Paladin was not bureaucratic. I knew Paladin, its word was its bond, that if a senior leader made a commitment, that it was followed through on. And from that basis, the culture is then what we live and breathe. And I know, when we have a healthy culture is when we can say to somebody and have a culture conversation with them, or a core value type based conversation with them, as opposed to it being just based on opinion. It's now tied back to something that just gets stronger the next time. And then when we take actions that are related to cultural anomalies, people that just aren't getting it, then I think that shows the staff that there's accountability, that we mean this, and we will address it. And I think that's just something we just have to continue looking at very carefully as we bring in new team members, to make sure that they're understanding that that's the way it has to be, honest and open conversation.
I think just rounding that out is going back to the fact that as we have merged with other entities and formed Paladin Technologies, we've looked to each other for solutions. We haven't come in and said this is the Paladin way and that's the only way. It's been analyzing best practices from every entity, and through each acquisition or merger that we've been through, I think we've only gotten better because we've sat there and looked at what did this group do better than we did prior, and how can we, cultivate that into an ongoing strategy. So I'm really proud of how we continue to listen to one another and constantly look to improve and develop new solutions for how we do business.
So as we sit here today, what would you say are the top 2 or 3 challenges that the business is facing, and maybe if you want to throw in something that in your role you're also facing?
I would say, as we continue to grow, the challenge that we've touched on is our approach to bringing an acquisition or organic growth into our culture and alignment quicker. We've been relatively slow and patient, which is a good thing, in bridging these teams in, but our growth is accelerating and we have to accelerate with it. So I think we've got a good lens on that. I think the other factor, though, is Joe's in this boat in the U.S. As we're entering into new markets, and we perhaps have a core competency in 1 or 2 areas, is we have to expand into 3 or 4 or 5 and deliver what we fulfill on. So sharing that learning, that expertise, as we continue to grow is hard, and it's somewhat of a breaking point for other larger multinationals in this industry, and that you can't be all things to all people in every market. So the commitments we make have to be controlled, and they have to be realistic, and they have to be deliverable, but they can't stop us being aggressive and stretching. Otherwise we wouldn't grow. So managing that balance is critically important to me.
And I think, as the business scales up, that entrepreneurial, regional agility focus, we can kind of maintain that. But, as we collaborate and the team gets larger and larger, we're far past Dunbar's number of, 100 people kind of, but as the business gets larger and you got to maintain these various connections, that is a complexity that is, it's gonna hamper our kind of just lean mean capabilities to be able to deploy and always know the right people to call and lean on. But I think at the same time, there's more tools and collaboration platforms that enable us to work better together at a distance too. That's and communicate more rapidly. That's going to help us overcome that as well.
I think. Joe, you can go. Joe, you go.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. I would add 2 things. One, just in terms of when we're seeking new opportunity, refining and kind of aligning to both like regional goals and then what are our multinational goals, and being a little more choosy about what we're going to dedicate a team towards chasing down a pursuit. We've spent, Paladin Technologies as a brand has been in existence since 2017. So we did a lot of work to establish ourselves in the market. And now people, really know who we are. And now it's about maybe scaling back a bit in times and being more selective about the work we take on. And then further to that is ensuring that we're constantly hiring and retaining new people, and developing our people as well. As Ian, I think, touched on before, we need to ensure that our talent is constantly growing. We have an incredible performance management program where managers directly coach employees to ensure that they're reaching goals, and we measure them against our core values. So it really does strive everything we do, but I think just scaling quickly and being selective about where we focus will be key.
And Stephanie said everything I was going to say and better right there. So well done.
So what do you guys think for 2021? How's the year going to turn out, do you think, security-wise?
I mean, I think it's going to turn out, another record year for us. Things are, we've got a huge backlog. Things are going really well, even in coming out of COVID. So, I mean, from what I see out here, things look very, very positive. I could defer to some of the other guys on the team here.
From my standpoint, it's knock on wood here. It's looking very good. So continuing the year-over-year growth we've seen repeatedly, quite an accomplishment coming through a pandemic year. I think having the confidence of our vendor community, our client community, is through this that we haven't, when we've made these quick adjustments to the business to react, that we've come through this, still met our commitments, I think is going to serve us well. So I think this year is a very strong year, and it's really a trampoline into just great future over the next coming years.